Hi, my name is Cheryl Gitt. I'm an assistant principal at the Clinton School. So I know you're here to learn about the middle school. As a 7-year program, I am going to tell you about the middle school, but also share information about our high school. Our eighth graders have a right to a seat in the ninth grade cohort. Normally, we have about 70% of our middle grade students stay and continue on to our high school. So that means we like to have families consider us as a package deal, as both a middle school and then possibly a high school, and think about, staying with us through the 7 years. So our mission as a 7-year liberal arts program does not change drastically from year to year. We are a public school, and as such, we want to make sure that the children of New York City that are under our care have access to an instructional program that builds critical thinking, critical reading, critical writing skills. And it also requires them to learn how to work with other people. For that reason, and given the fact that we're finally all back in the building together, we've really centered our work around two phrases this year. We belong, crecemos. We belong, we grow. So what do students and adults at Clinton need to feel belonging and to grow? Um, what they need is an environment where students know one another and that they know the adults in the building. And we do this through student life activities, sharing learning experiences in the classroom, advisories. Adults need to work in teams that understand what it means to be a community member and to model that for students. So we strive to be a school where not only students, but also adults work together in partnership to set goals, celebrate triumphs, pick each other up after failures. We trust one another, we question and problem solve together, and we take risks together. And now a video just so you can hear from people other than just me. Okay, so a little bit about the administrative team. John Levin is the principal. It's his 11th year at Clinton, and he's been in District 2 for 20 years. Jerome Ellison is in his first year at Clinton, and we are really excited to have him here. For 10 years, he served as a math teacher, coach, and dean at a K-8 school. And then I'm Cheryl Gett, an assistant principal. It's my 16th year in District 2 and my 12th year at Clinton. And my role at Clinton has always been as an assistant principal. So, when I transitioned to being an administrator and started working at the school, I loved it, and I'm still here. So just a little bit more about us. We all have our interests and specialties and how we've kind of divided up the work of running a school. John is really the steward of our vision and mission. He's doing his principal things. And that's, working with the Parent Association, who we really enjoy strong support and partnership from. He's making sure we have what we need, and of course, guiding our instructional work. Jerome is bringing his expertise in restorative justice and culture, and creating circles, and really helping not only the adults in the building, but also the students to learn how to create a culture that's affirming and supportive, but also able to have courageous conversations and address the issues that we need to address as a community. And as a former special education teacher, our ability to provide an accessible IB program occupies a tremendous amount of my brain space, because I know that's the exit point for our students in our school. And so as an educator, I was always thinking about how do we work backwards from, if this is where we want the kids to end up, how do we get them there? And so I actually worked as a special educator in middle schools. I love the age group. I've come to learn a lot about working with teenagers since we opened the building in 2015 and the high school in 2015. And I found a lot of joy in working with our teenage students as well. And I am not being sarcastic about that. I actually truly mean that. So we've been a middle school for over 40 years. The picture on the left was our home for over a decade ago on top of PS 11. On the right was our temporary home on 33rd Street, which we left at the end of 2015 to move into our new building on 15th Street. So our permanent home, which you'll see in the lower right, is now on 10 East 15th Street. We ended up here because of the support from our families, and we truly appreciate that. We're on the west side of Union Square. The closest Union Square stop provides access to subway lines 4, 5, 6, L, N, Q, R, and W. Just a bit further into Union Square, you'll find access to the F, 1, 2, and 3. There's a city bike docking station 1 block north of us. And if you're walking south, if you're walking on the south side of 15th Street from Union Square towards 5th Avenue, you can't miss that red awning. As I said, in 2015, we moved into our new building and started to expand to include a high school. The big question we grappled with, having been a small middle school for so long, was how do we build a close-knit and collaborative culture while also expanding? So to do that, we knew we had to focus on people and not materials. So, we thought about how do we provide the social and emotional support that students will need from the time they're 10 or 11 until the time they're 18 and walking out our doors. So we looked at the ruler program out of Yale, the Castle framework, and the IB's approaches to learning. And those frameworks are the foundation for how we think about what students need and how we can provide that support as they are learning how to learn together, work together, be social together, and move through the challenges that middle and high school present. We also had to focus on hiring teachers who genuinely like working with middle and high school students. 9 out of 10 teachers will tell you that teachers have an affinity for particular grades or ages. So we do our best to match up solid teachers with their preferred grades when we're hiring. We also, think about communication a lot. We continue to use online grading and messaging platforms, Jupyter Grades, Google Classroom. John sends out weekly emails. And then, we also have, things coming from our guidance department, our student life coordinator. We've found that, feedback surveys, town halls by grade level where we can talk together, meetings with groups of teacher and student leaders. All of this communication that can help in virtually and in person is incredibly helpful. And not only to us in the building, but also to families and students at home. The student council, student leadership groups, and our student life coordinator, Ms. Reyes, work together to ensure that we maintain a supportive and enjoyable learning community by asking for feedback and considering what else we can do. And I will say that we are always asking, okay, so if this is what you're interested in, how can we bring this into the building? And then, of course, sports and after school are opportunities for students and staff to learn and play together. So these programs are especially important because for some students, it's the only reason to come to school, and that's okay by us. As long as students are in the door and feel connected, we can reach them. Now, you saw a little bit of the building in the video. I do want to give you a better sense of our school building since we can't take tours right now and hope to do so in the future. So we have 8 floors. We do have large windows, not only on one side of each classroom, but we also have windows at the top portion of the wall and around the doors. So that allows natural light to come into the building, which is especially important as we've all kind of been stuck at home for a while. The benefit from large windows, also just makes it light and bright and a comfortable place to be in. We have the middle grades on the top floors with the upper grades below. There is some crossover. So really our 6th graders are on that 7th floor for their classes, right outside Mr. Levin's office, right outside Allison Holtman, the school counselor's office. The 6th grade teachers are all there. It helps the 6th grade team to teach the students how to transition between classes, since that's a new thing for our 6th graders. And then some of our 7th and 8th graders have classes up there too, and also on the 6th floor. Our science room for our entire middle school is on the 6th floor, so they do get to go down there. And then our music room is on the 5th floor. Our science and art rooms, we have science and art rooms for both middle school and high school. There are different requirements for each of those grade bands. And so, you will find that they look a little bit different, but our middle school art room does have a kiln, which Ms. Anteville, our art teacher, loves to fire up throughout the year. And then also, I just want to, let you know, we have the cafeteria on the 2nd floor, and we have the library on the 1st floor that also has a classroom space that's separated from the library with a retractable glass door. And then, the gym is in the basement. So here are some photos of the building that I was able to snap as we were in session the other day. This is the cafeteria overlooking 15th Street. We have the round tables throughout. We also have the booths that are popular, and I know students like to get to the cafeteria first to try to grab those. This is just the other side of the cafeteria. This is an image of the library from one end. This is the open library space. You'll see this is a retractable glass wall, and then that dark mass right there in the center, or just off center, is a group of students who are actually in class. On the bottom, you'll see images of our gym. So this is taken from the lobby, looking down into the gym from one of our glass walls. And then this image on the lower right is an image that I took during one of our student town halls. It's taken from the front of the stage. So for town halls, we have students come by grade level for a grade level town hall, and they sit in smaller groups and discuss questions posed by the student council. And then we come together at the end as a whole group to answer questions, think about next steps, and have a conversation. So the top 2 images are from the Hawk's Nest on our 8th floor. It's a split open space and classroom type multipurpose space. The piano's in the multipurpose space, and the red floor is actually the outdoor area with caging around it. So then on the right is our new fitness center. You saw a little bit of that in the video. Our PE teachers have started rolling out. We got the flag up. We got a few more things in there. I did drop a picture of the bathroom in here, and this is one of our bathrooms. There are 2 on each floor for students to use, as well as non-gendered bathroom options. The image in the middle is taken in our art room, which has one of the new smart boards that we purchased for all of our classrooms this year. And below we have Miss Anteville, the visual arts teacher, working in her middle grades arts classroom. And that door in the very far back goes to our kiln. And then finally, this is our main office. It's up on the 7th floor. And if you look real closely back there, you'll see a little door, and that is that door space goes actually to Mr. Levin's office on 7th. So our middle school students do get lockers. It's not uncommon to find them decorated for student birthdays, as you can see in this photo. I snapped a few photos of our hallways and 2 classrooms. They were in session. I know you got to see classrooms in action in the video, and I didn't want to interrupt teachers and students. So these are images of the large windows and the windows around the doorways, just so you can get a sense of how we allow more natural light into the building. I also wanted you to get a sense of the student work that teachers display. In the upper right-hand corner, we have one of the low-tech methods for communication that our clubs use. On the stairwell floors, students can put up posters. You can see there's posters there for peer tutoring, and a couple of other clubs that are going to be happening. So middle grade's bell schedule looks different than upper grade's bell schedule. Our school does open at 7:30 for breakfast, so students can come in and go to the cafeteria. Middle school students begin their classes at 8:10, and they go through class until 2:38. They are then welcome to join Manhattan Youth After School programs from 2:40 to 5:30. Nicole Ford has been running those programs for our school for many years now and is amazing, and is really a part of our community. You'll see that period 5 is lunch. That's lunch for all of middle school, 11:20 to 12:08. The other thing that I want to point out to you is having 800 students come into the building with 2 sets of doors and exit the building with 2 sets of doors isn't exactly how we want to do things. So we've staggered the start times. So middle grades come in first. And then when our middle grade students are in period 2, that's when our upper grades arrives. And then, middle grades leave at 2:38, or they go to after school. And then our upper grade students leave an hour later at 2:30. This allows us to just limit the number of kids coming in and out of the building at once. So I want to show you a sample schedule. I will tell you, we tweak schedules every year based on what we see is working and what we see isn't. So for example, arts classes have been anywhere from 3 to 5 periods, depending on the year and student needs. So I say that because, I am a parent. I've been put in the position of having to make decisions about my child's education. And so I know that every, parent or guardian has their non-negotiables. So, I just want to make sure that you understand that if there are non-negotiables for you in terms of having particular courses or having courses for a certain amount of time, this might not be the place for you, because we do, we're tinkering. So for middle school, every day we start with advisory 5 days a week. And that's where you'll see these little hearts popping up. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, our middle school students come in and start with advisory. And that's a smaller group of students. It's their advisor they have for the year. It's where they start building connections with each other and with teachers. And it's also an opportunity for us to get in a little bit of organization. Classes for students are English, math, individuals and societies, which is our social studies, Spanish, art, or music. So they have art for half of the year and music for half of the year, and physical education. Class periods are 48 minutes. We typically have lunch at the same time every day. Lunch is this year 11:20 to 12:10. There is out lunch. It is a privilege. So for lunch, you can go to the cafeteria, which does have great food, or you can go outside. If you go outside, we just want to make sure that students understand they have to be back to school a couple of minutes early so that they're not late for their next class. Middle school classes are mostly on the 6th and 7th floor. You have to get up those flights of stairs. So students do need to make sure they're back on time. And again, Manhattan Youth runs an amazing after-school program, and it is where we're able to provide a lot of different opportunities for students to engage in arts, activities. This is where we run our sports programs. I know that cross country is a big one. So is soccer. We do have free running, basketball. We also have mural design, a glee club, cheerleading, comic book art, and creative writing. Clinton Soup, is a longstanding tradition. It's our literary magazine. And then, I guess the thing I would say, one of the questions we typically get in open houses is about our sports and how competitive they are. And I would say this: we're a small school. There's a benefit to being in a small school and having, less than 100 kids in a middle school grade level. We really get to know them. And when we compete against smaller schools, we're competitive. When we go up against schools that have 300 to 400 kids on a grade level, we're a little bit less competitive because they just have a wider range of students to pull from when they're creating their teams. So when families enroll their children in schools in New York City, they're asked to provide biographical data about their child. So you can find information about Clinton in New York City and New York State data systems, but I just wanted to review some points here for everybody. We have 769 students in our school. That's from grades 6 to 12. We have 279 middle school students at the moment, with 23 teachers and 2 full-time counselors. We have 490 upper grade students, that's grades 9 through 12, 37 upper grades teachers and 2 full-time counselors. And this year we've also brought on 1 social worker to support, everyone across the building. So I've pulled the DOE provided data on gender because this is a topic that we're often asked about, given our history having cohorts that have more students that identify as female than male. And I'm saying identify as because these numbers are off. We have students who are non-binary, in transition, or who have transitioned without updating biographic data with the city. So for those families who are interested in understanding the general ratio of female to male students, I can tell you that this year's 6th grade is the most gender balanced cohort we've had in years. These numbers that I'm showing you for the middle school are for grades 6, 7, and 8. Given that our 8th grade students are guaranteed seats in our 9th grade cohort, we do expect that our high school will become more gender balanced over time as younger students move through the program. So next, I have the numbers for students who are eligible for special education services, or, as we've transitioned to calling them instructional support services as per an IEP. So in the middle school, we have 51 students with IEPs. And in the high school, we have 86 students with IEPs. Our students, have integrated co-teaching, reading intervention, counseling, speech, OT, PT. Some students have paraprofessionals, some students have nursing services. We, have a range of services. And then finally, again, families of our students identify their children as belonging to one of the following racial or ethnic groups. So those are the racial and ethnic group breakdown for our middle school. And then this is the racial and ethnic group breakdown for our high school. And then finally, the one last thing that I would like to say about this before moving on is that we know our school does not yet fully reflect the diversity of New York City, but we're also still working to create a home for diverse learners. And that's not just for the kids, but also for adults. So, we've requested citywide priority for high school admissions. We have a racial and ethnic equity team that was created by staff, and they've been working with administrators to create a 3-year plan for professional development, curriculum revision, student engagement. And so we're working in support and collaboration with that team to advance that work. We are working to build student and faculty capacity to facilitate advisory circles, restorative justice, and grade level town halls This is how we get to know the people in our community, and learn about one another and work together and create that international mindedness that's required for the IB program. We also collaboratively opened a ninth grade shared instruction program this year, and we're looking forward to expanding that program. We're calling it shared instruction because that's how we view it. You might know it as D75, but we see it as, these are our students and we share them with another building and we're just providing services. And we also recognize that the work's not done. So we're going to continue to learn and change and grow. So as I've said, we're a 6 to 12 and an IB for all. So what? Why should that matter to you? If you're looking at sixth grade or if you're looking at ninth grade, like what does that matter? What's important about that? So what's important about that is we can build a program over a 7-year continuum. The kids that we see and come to us as 10 and 11-year-olds are very different when they leave as 17, 18, 19-year-olds to go off to college or have a gap year or enter into some kind of training program or start working. Also, the IB has greatly influenced our course progression down into sixth grade and our thoughts around what international mindedness means. We're one of 3 New York City public schools with an IB for all program. It also means that we can thoughtfully and intentionally consider how older students can mentor and support younger students. Our older students are an asset that we can use in support of our younger students. So I want to talk a little bit more specifically about what that looks like in practice. So first, I'm going to start by explaining to you why our school leadership team chose to open an IB program when we started the high school and why we're IB for all. One of the key pieces of the IB program is that they engage in international review of their curriculum every 7 years. And so to us, that aligned with our practice as a school, which was always thinking about how can we improve our work. And so that really drew us into the program. We also know, based on the data we were seeing, that engagement in the IB is an excellent predictor of college success. Through this program, students learn and know how to manage their time, how to write research papers. They know themselves as learners and get to know themselves as learners, and then they can make a match to a school that's right for them. It also requires a balanced development of a thoughtful individual. So with the IB program, you can't pick and choose and play only to your strengths. You're required to take a full advanced course load so that you can learn how to grapple with challenges before you go to college and while you have support from your peers in your high school, from your adults at home, and from your teachers in the school. And the courses also require you to develop as an analytical thinker and communicator. We have students engage in a lot of reading and writing and thinking. It also promotes international understanding and respect for a wide variety of college cultures. So within the core components of the program, within the courses, students learn how to engage in perspective taking and develop their curiosity. Finally, we were a middle school for a really long time. We offered co-teaching in our classes for quite a bit of time before we opened the high school. And so for us, co-teaching and integrated co-teaching services were just a part of who we were. And so when we were looking at a rich, accessible curriculum, it's every student's right, and it was a part of our culture. So it would have been weird for us not to be an IB for all. It just would not have lined up with who we were as a school community. So at the heart of the IB program is the IB learner profile. These are the traits we help students to develop in their courses and in their student life. The IB diploma program is for students in grades 11 and 12. However, as a 6 to 12 school, we don't have to wait for students to enter the IB program to start learning about what it means to be open-minded or communicators or principled. These are 10 traits live in the work we do across the school And you might hear them referred to as hawk habits after our school mascot, which is a hawk. So this is a diagram, a visual of what the IB diploma program is about. Here in the center, you'll see at the heart of it, the IB learner profile, and those are those traits that I just showed you. There are approaches to teaching and learning that are common across the IB programs. And there are also 3 core components to it. There's theory of knowledge. That's a course that students take in 11th and 12th grade, where they think about what knowledge is, how do we know what we know, and what are the different ways of knowing. The extended essay is an extended and independent research project. And then creativity, activity, and service. Those are student created and student driven projects that students do on their own time. And the key piece there isn't a set amount of time that they spend or a certain number of hours to accumulate. What we're looking for and what the IB is looking for are their reflections. So you created this project or you did this service. How did you go about planning it and executing it? And what did you learn in doing it? That's really what we're looking for, not just a certain number of hours. And then the big piece of information that I really will help you to understand, like the next piece of this presentation, is that we have 6 core groups or 6 contents or disciplines where students are required to study. So there's studies in language and literature, and that's where our ELA component comes in. We have individuals and societies, and you see that that's what we call our social studies classes across the 6 to 12 grade bands. Students have to take mathematics courses, they have to take arts courses, they have to take sciences, and they have to take a language acquisition course. And in our school, that's Spanish. Something I want to make sure to note here is that in 11th and 12th grade, the arts and Spanish are part of our core. They're not electives. They're part of our program just as much as the sciences and maths and individuals and societies and studies in language and literature. Okay, so hold on to this information about the IB. Keep that in mind, and we'll come back to it. So I want to talk a little bit about the transition benefit of a 6 to 12. First of all, I do want to mention that we have the Association to Benefit Children on Site one time a week. That's an outside program that comes in, and they are able to help us if we have concerns about a student or a family, needs some extra support. We can talk with them. We can go to the Association to Benefit Children. We can say, hey, this student or this family is looking for some extra support outside of the school. Can you give the family a call and work with the family to figure out, what kind of support you can provide? And they've been in our building for years. They're a great resource, and they've been incredibly helpful, and we really enjoy having them in the building. So they help us, when there's a transition of any kind, whether it's when students are coming in at 6 or 9, or if it's at any point during the course of the 7 years. So your child is about to make a transition if they're currently in 5th grade or 8th grade, and going into the 6th grade, going into middle school or starting high school. But it's not just a transition for students, it's also for adults. Everyone's meeting each other, it takes time. And so one of the benefits that we have as a 6 to 12 is that transition from 6 to 9, that transition from 8 to 9 is a little bit less bumpy if you're, continuing with us into the high school. You know our faces, you get Mr. Levin's emails, all of his jokes, so, you can move past it. But I want to talk a little bit about specifically for the kids, how transition from into our middle school and then into our high school can be helpful. So thinking about going into our middle grades where students are brand new at middle school and brand new to the community. Our 6th grade team works really hard to be coordinated and cohesive in the routines for transition between classes, note-taking, navigating the virtual world and the real world classrooms. They know that kids are coming from different elementary schools with different experiences. And so they've been really thoughtful about how they can be consistent and routine in their approach to teaching students about how to do middle school. We offer Clinton Connects summer and school year programming with Clinton teachers. As you know, past 2 years, the city has rolled out some special ed recovery programs and summer intensives. We like to call it Clinton Connects because it's just a time when we can have our students connect with our teachers and each other. And so, that's a time when we can provide some supports to students. We also have peer tutoring available. Again, this is where our high school students are a real asset. Many of our high school students have attended Clinton Middle School. And so, they have a fondness for the middle school kids. They remember what it was like. They remember the teachers. They like to say hello. And so, we've been really able to harness that energy and enthusiasm and provide peer tutoring, which I know, many of our middle school students enjoy, especially since they love working with the teenagers. The transitions for students with disabilities, we have integrated co-teaching in 2 of our 3 6th grade sections. We offer reading intervention programs, rewards, and collaborative strategic reading. Rewards is more focused on learning word parts and reading fluency, whereas collaborative strategic reading helps students develop their reading comprehension skills. And then, that summer before coming into 6th grade, our instructional support teachers, or as I said, our special education teachers, reach out to our 6th grade families to get to know, who it is that's coming into our building and how we can support them. I also want to talk about that transition into high school because, as I said, like a large portion of our students do stay. So when we think about transitioning into the upper grades, the middle grades teams, including the counselor, are accessible to our upper grades teachers. So if we have questions, we can go to them. Our 6th to 12th grade teachers meet weekly in content teams. So they get to talk about what instruction looks like from grades 6 through 12 within a particular department. So our science team will meet 6 to 12 and think about, okay, if this is what lab reports are supposed to look like in the IB program, how do we bring those skills and that knowledge down all the way into our 6th grade so that we can support students across the 7 years. Again, we still have the Clinton Connects program and peer tutoring is still available. In the high school students can tutor each other. And so transitions for students with disabilities, we continue to have integrated co-teaching in core courses and Spanish. We have middle grades instructional support teachers who are accessible on a daily basis. And we continue advisory. Also, after getting to know students for 3 years, we can be thoughtful about the student advisor matches based on what we know about the student. So, okay, I've talked to you a little bit about the IB program. I've talked to you a little bit about transitions from a 6 to 12. I want to talk to you a little bit about instructional support services for 6 to 12. And again, we're saying instructional support services. In the school you're in, it might be called special education. And I'm going to start with some general information you should know about our school. So classrooms with and without ICT services follow the same Common Core standards, pacing, and curriculum. We have ICT services from grades 6 to 12 in math, science, INS, and ELA. And from 6 to 12, our students have a range of services. They have counseling, speech, OT, PT. As I said earlier, some of them have hearing, nursing, paraprofessional services. And again, we opened a shared instruction program in grade 9. That's the D7, D5, as it might be known, in other schools. So the other piece that I want to share that I think is important information about our ISS program is that our ISS department head supports our ISS teachers in grades 6 to 12. So she also facilitates the middle grades reading intervention program. So in addition to me, there is another person who also has a bigger framework for understanding the supports and the needs of our students with disabilities across the grade span and across the content. Our teachers in the ISS department use UDL and Goalbook as frameworks and tools for our crafts in grades 6 to 12. And again, we have advisory 5 times a week in middle grades and 3 times a week in upper grades to build personal connections, but also support organization for students. And as we get to know students, again, we can be thoughtful about who we assign as their advisor in each grade level. So I also, I guess, want to point out that a key component of any special education program is specially designed instruction. And so that is where I would also say that because our students who are in front of us change every year, it's important to understand that we'll continue to use the information that we have about students from their IEPs as they come in, and these frameworks of UDL and our knowledge about what works well for students across the grades and across the disciplines to implement specially designed instruction. So next, I just want to be more specific and give you an example of why 6 to 12 IB for all matters. And so the example I'm going to give is in our Spanish department. So when we started our high school, we could not provide ICT services in all of our core courses in 11 and 12 and provide Spanish language instruction in the middle school. We just didn't have enough staff. So how could we be an IB for all program if our students with IEPs didn't have a shot at being successful in IB Spanish as students without IEPs? So over the past few years, we've considered what it is the IB asks of graduates and worked down into the 6th grade to create an accessible program. So, as you can see, we started with grades 11 and 12. We provide ICT support in IB Spanish ab initio. And we know that what the IB is asking our 11th and 12th graders to do is to read an authentic text and understand the author's purpose, the context, the meaning, the audience, the variation in language. That all also requires an underlying knowledge of culture. And then the IB exams, the internal assessments and external assessments, assess listening, speaking, reading, and writing. So in order to get students to that point, we knew that in 9th and 10th grade, students needed ICT support in preparing for the IB. So we've been able to provide ICT support in Spanish in grades 9 and 10. We're still providing authentic texts, right? Like we don't want to wait until 11th and 12th grade to start with authentic texts. We're going to start with them earlier. And we're going to pay special attention to listening and speaking. So, as tweens and teens move through school, developmentally, it's totally appropriate for them to not want to stand out sometimes or not want to make mistakes in front of others. And so we really try to help them understand that you are going to make mistakes in the language. It's okay. It's a language. It's a learning opportunity. And it's actually good. And it's a good habit and good practice, right? You want to throw out things when you're learning another language. We focus on building vocabulary so that they can have more complex conversations as they get older, and grammar skills. And students continue to learn about cultures. It's really important that they have this cultural base in order for them to engage in language at the next level. So the next thing that we did was we were able to hire a teacher to teach Spanish in grades 7 and 8. And so again, this teacher has brought in authentic text, grammar, vocabulary, and becoming comfortable with making mistakes. We're trying to engage students in listening, speaking as much as possible because we know that those are difficulty areas for students. And, the teacher is building on the cultural work and building on the comparisons that students naturally make when they're learning about cultural elements. And then in 6th grade, we just started this year for the first time teaching Spanish in 6th grade. It is 2 times per week this year. Honestly, that is not enough time in the week to learn a language and become fluent in it. And knowing where we want the students to end up and knowing that it's going to require them to really enjoy and find a love for learning language, the focus of our 6th grade has been just to develop a love of learning about culture and language with fun. So, our 9th grade Spanish language arts teacher is teaching this class. She's pulling in the arts, projects, games, music, dance, and really just trying to teach students basic vocabulary, simple conversations, about cultures, and just trying to develop their sense of love about learning a new language and cultures. So that's the story with Spanish, and why 6 to 12 in support of all students and IB for all has mattered, just within that particular narrow range. I also do want to talk about the arts. Again, not an elective. It's part of our core in the IB program. So, at the moment, we have ICT and 12th grade IB arts to support students who are pursuing a transcript or a certificate in the arts. And what we're wondering and thinking about right now is, how can we offer more ICT services in the arts from 6 to 12? And so this is something we're going to be thinking and tinkering with as we continue to build an accessible IB for all program from 6 to 12. So in summary, I want to be sure that I'm clear about what IB for all means at Clinton, and why IB shouldn't scare away families and students who work hard for their grades. So IB for all is continued ICT services in core courses with differentiated instruction and specialized instruction. It is not an untouchable IB curriculum that can't be accommodated or modified. IB for all is students taking a full course load of IB courses in grades 11 and 12, even after they've met New York State's basic graduation requirements. So students are still being provided support and still engaging in those more advanced courses. It is not students dropping IB courses once they've met New York State's basic graduation requirements. It's also students completing a capstone project, either the extended essay or personal project. It's not students opting out of both capstone projects. These are bigger projects that we have the students tackle in 11th and 12th grade, and it's something that we want them to share. Again, this is also another piece where, in sharing their work with the community and with younger students, our high school students are actually an asset for our younger students to look to as models. I also want to be clear that IB for all is not pushing every child to attempt to earn the full diploma. Our view on this is that all 11th and 12th grade students are in the IB program. We're supporting all students as they determine their best fit for an IB challenge, whether it's 1 or 2 certificates or transcripts, or the full diploma, or somewhere in between. We want students to learn about who they are. We want them to be able to set goals for themselves and work to reach those goals. And so that's what makes our IB program IB for all. And then finally, there were questions that were sent in that I wanted to review. And so I'm just going to go through the list here. One of them is the school appropriate for bright kids who are not driven or overachievers? I would say yes, definitely. It's why we keep an eye on sports and after school offerings. Sometimes, like I said, those are the reasons why kids come to school, and that's okay. Kids change over time. The 10th or 11th grader that enters is not the same kid that leaves when they're 17, 18, 19 years old. As long as kids are coming into the door, we can teach them. What are 6th grade homework expectations? So for 6th grade, it's no more than an hour and a half from all subjects combined. We want kids to be balanced. We want them to have lives outside of school. We want them to be engaged in extracurriculars. Do clubs happen during the school day? So they do. I believe Ms. Reyes addressed that in the video. We do have many clubs that meet during lunch. Not so many clubs meet before school. You will find that many tweens and teens do not want to come into school any earlier than 8 o'clock. So they don't really meet before school. Are high school and middle school students in the halls together? Are they separated? So yes, our middle and high school students are in the halls together. They don't have lunch together. We usually schedule lunches at a different time. Part of that is so that we can have grade levels, meet up so people can see, friends outside of, whichever sections they're in. Part of it also a capacity issue within the cafeteria. But they're definitely in the halls together. Like I said, that music room on the 5th floor. You get some cross pollination there because it's actually next door to one of our 12th grade ELA classes. But as I said, we view our high school students as an asset and as peer mentors and peer tutors and peer models for our students. Many of our upper grades kids went to Clinton Middle School. They remember what it was like. When you talk to them, they're like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like to be a little 6th grader walking in. Apologies to 5th graders. We can't wait to see you when you are big and coming into our building. But they do have a fondness for the middle school. And so they want to be engaged with it, and like I said, our upper grade student council helped to establish our middle school student council. So it's actually a nice feeling in the building. And then again, we also set aside time though for the middle grades to connect with each other. And, they could do that in the advisory, the Manhattan after school programs, the lunch clubs. And so it helps them to have a small school feel in the middle school that is also different from the feel of being in a high school. Another question, can a student currently in 6th grade apply to Clinton? That any student coming in outside of the regular admissions process, whether it's a different timeline or a different grade level, we just need to go through the Family Welcome Center. Can you describe visual arts from middle grades to upper grades? I can. So in 6th grade, students get the fundamental elements of the arts, working in a variety of media. 7th and 8th grade, the teacher follows a pattern of introducing an artist. Students learn about the cultural context and movement and the techniques, and then the students replicating the techniques. In high school, it follows the same pattern of learning, where they have the fundamental and then move to more advanced levels. And then our IB program, we offer IB visual arts and IB film. And so our arts offerings in 9 and 10 are really trying to help students learn the techniques and get a sense of, which arts course, which 2-year arts course, either visual arts or film, might be a good fit or of more interest to them. What language do students learn? As I said, it's Spanish, and I think I spent a lot of time on Spanish. So I won't dwell on that. And what role do advisors play? Advisors are a great support for kids. So when students come in on the first day of school, especially in 6th grade, that advisor is there to meet them right from the jump. So they meet an adult who can help them navigate school life. And they have that advisor there to create a space for them to get to know each other, look out for them as advisees, be a point person for academics. So the advisor is somebody who the student and family can communicate with. When you transition to middle school or to high school, students will all go from having maybe 2 or 3 teachers to having 7, 8, 9 teachers. So the advisor is one point person who knows the student socially, emotionally, academically, and can make some of those connections, find some answers, help students out, and not only through like thinking through how to get support from other teachers, help them. I've seen advisors help students, by modeling a conversation to have with a different teacher, or helping them figure out how to open their locker. All of those things are the role that the advisor can play. And that seems to be the questions I had. Thank you so much for being interested in our school, and I wish you all the best.